Howdy, folks. Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer. And it's beer 30. Cheers. Oh, yeah. Today's beer is by the Kona Brewing Company. I've had this one many times. Ye Ol' Longboard Lager. They say Longboard Island Lager, but it's Longboard Lager. And so you can get another look at the color there. Of course, it's summertime, and in the summertime, I prefer my lighter lagers, Hefeweizen, Weissbier, that type of thing. I'm very much a seasonal beer drinker, and then when autumn comes, fall, I like my brown ales, etc. Wintertime, get more into the oatmeal stouts, that type of thing. So, yeah. And this one, as far as a lager goes, you can never go wrong with Longboard. It is almost a perfect summertime lager, So, for those of you that are not familiar with Beer 30, I did one a couple weeks back or whatever, and I hadn't done one for a long time. Basically, this is when it's usually the end of the week, pop a beer, try to make it something that's like a craft beer, something, out of the ordinary, that, you don't always see. And then I talk about that a little bit, and then we talk about whatever the current gaming topics are that are out there in the intranet sphere, that are going on. So, and by the way, because I haven't done this for a while, when I very first started doing this, I came up with the idea. I want to make sure and give her credit. There is a gaming channel. Her name is Dodger. She's the Dodger Lee. Lee is her last name, I believe. And I think hers is like Press Heart to Continue or something like that is the name of her channel. But everybody knows Dodger. She's a gamer. Been in the YouTube game for a long time. And she had a segment called Coffee Time, Coffee Time with Dodger, and where she would have a cup of coffee and talk about whatever current gaming stuff was going on. And it was a pretty popular, segment that she did. And that was where I got the idea. I said, well, I can do the same thing with beer and just make it a beer 30. So I always like to give her credit because I absolutely stole the idea, changed it up a bit to beer instead of coffee. So anyway, I like to give credit where credit's due. So today, let's talk about a couple different things. Let's talk, number one, let's talk about the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Wizards of the Coast proclamation that was made. I believe it was made yesterday. We'll do that, and then I also want to talk a little bit about the Cyberpunk 2077 announcement about it being delayed. Maybe a little bit about The Last of Us 2. Maybe a couple other things, whatever. So, let's start off with this Dungeons & Dragons thing. So, if you didn't see it, because the proclivity right now of companies is to try and jump on the bandwagon and make sure that they appear as woke as possible. And don't get me wrong. Let me start off by saying, let me make a couple of declarations of my own here. Number one, I am pro LGBTQ, the whole thing. I have family members who are gay. I have friends who are gay. I'm pro LGBTQ. So let's get that out of the way. I'm also completely 100% anti-racist. Back in my single days, I dated a black woman. I grew up with a mixed group of kids in my neighborhood who we were white, black. We had a guy that was from Guatemala. We had a Cuban kid in our group. Very diverse. I grew up in all that. So very much anti-racist. and pro-LGBTQ. So let's start off by that, and then let's go into this. So, because I do feel that at certain points, things they veer into the land of lunacy. And I'm going to read from this statement yesterday, this press release that was put out yesterday by Wizards of the Coast, and it's specifically about Dungeons and Dragons. I want to make sure that they are addressing it in that particular game, because they do have other games. So it came out under the Dungeons and Dragons license as an announcement. And this is just an excerpt. This isn't the whole thing, but this is what I wanted to hit on. Throughout the 50-year history of D&D, some of the peoples in the game, orcs and drow being two of the prime examples, have been characterized as monstrous and evil, using descriptions that are painfully reminiscent of how real-world ethnic groups have been and continue to be denigrated. So, let's unpack this. They're trying to make a correlation between fictional fantasy content in a game and the real world. And maybe I'm not just an old guy and I don't get it. Orcs and drow aren't real. Orcs and drow are in a game. They are, and it says here, they're characterized as monstrous and evil. They are monstrous and evil. It's Dungeons and Dragons, not Dungeons and Daffodils. I mean, it's a game and there are evil entities. That's the whole point. Conflict. Good versus evil. What am I missing here? What am I not getting about this? Because I am capable of compartmentalization, where I can compartmentalize between the real life and a fantasy game and the elements that make that game up, such as orcs and drow, etc. I'll give it. Let's look at it this way. Everybody's seen The Wizard of Oz, right? So you got the Wicked Witch of the West, who is inherently evil, obviously, and she wants to kill Dorothy and take her shoes back that Dorothy has on her because they're magically protected or whatever. She can't get them unless she kills Dorothy, and she's been terrorizing all the what do you call them? I want to say Oompa Loompas, but they're not the Oompa Loompas. Damn, I haven't seen it in so long. I can't remember what the damn little people are called in Oz. Anyway, I'm drawing a blank on that. So the Munchkins, that just came to me. So in Munchkinland, she's been terrorizing the Munchkins and so forth, and she's evil. Now, if you go by this standard here that Wizards of the Coast is setting, you would have to say, well, we can't call her evil. We have to say that she is merely trying to reclaim some of her stolen property, i.e. the shoes, and she's going to do that by whatever means necessary, and she's only avenging her sister's death because the house fell on her sister and killed her sister who had the shoes. But we can't call her evil, and can't say that she's the Wicked Witch, or something like. I mean, again, that's all a fantasy land. It's a work, a literary work, and they're fictional characters. Cruella de Vil. Better silence the old pocket computer here. Cruella de Vil in 101 Dalmatians. She wanted to kill puppies. She wanted to kill a fuck ton of puppies to make a fucking coat. She was evil. Period. There's no change in that. How are they gonna change that? You know, to say that we shouldn't pick on Cruella de Vil and call her evil because she merely, was trying to make a fashion statement. I mean, I don't again, if I'm all way off base on it, please let me know, because this is just an old guy's opinion, Time for another drink of beer. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about that. It's just, they can do whatever they want with 5th edition. They can put out these statements to say, that they're going to be more woke and they're going to be more sensitive about this and that and other thing. And, okay, that's fine. That's their prerogative to do that. Thank God I have my 1st and 2nd edition stuff, which is what we play now and what we predominantly, I think, we're going to play. And another quick note on that. There were things in 1st edition, or there are, I mean, the books are still there, I mean, they exist, that I didn't agree with. And I'll give you an example. Excuse me. The level limits that Gary Gygax put on different races, dwarves, etc., saying that they could only attain X number, like they could only be this level of a magic user if you were a dwarf or whatever, or the max strength. There was also ability caps for gender. So female humans or female gnomes or whatever could only have a strength of X, 16. I'm just pulling these numbers out of my ass. I don't have it in front of me, but you get the point. There were caps, and I never, when I DM, I don't go by any of that. I don't agree with any of that, so I don't use it. I just house rule it. And you know what? Gary Gygax would have been 100% fine with that, because he once told me, I mean, the only time I ever corresponded with him was through email, and it was over a question I had about the World Greyhawk, and his ending statement to me, his ending sentence in the email was, whatever you want to do, and he put it as, whatever you and your players want to do within the game, notwithstanding any published rules or rule sets or box set, whatever, he says, that's for you to decide. He goes, and he was famously known for saying way back when it was first published, I wonder what the players are going to do when they realize they don't need any of these books. He basically said that. He basically said, that most of it is theater of the mind, and you're doing this stuff yourself. And the books are merely guidelines, to guide you and so forth. So, but getting back to my point about these caps that he had on level caps for races and gender caps on ability scores and level caps on, or ability caps for gender. And I just decided to not use them. But it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like we needed to, someone needed to put out a press release and said, that we were wrong here and we're going to start doing this. And I just said, nah, my characters, if you're a dwarf and you want to play whatever magic user or whatever, I don't care how, we'll play, and he or she can continue to level up as much as you want, just like any other race would in the game, So it was just up to me. And I think that was fine. So I see Wizards of the Coast trying to, I don't want to use the word pander, but it probably, technically, if you go by the dictionary, it probably is pandering. But I understand what they're trying to do here. I just don't, that particular thing when it says some peoples in the game, orcs and drow, are being two prime examples, have been characterized as monstrous and evil. That is what got me, because it's like they are monstrous and evil. So, okay, off the soapbox for that. Let's talk about Cyberpunk 2077. 2077. CD Projekt Red put out a statement, it was either yesterday or the day before, saying that, because the game had already been delayed from April to September, and now they're saying they're not going to make September, they're going to push it to November. And they're saying it was a very transparent type of a notice, basically saying, hey, the game is done, content-wise, graphics-wise, all that, but it's not polished to where to their level of quality control that they accept. So they want additional time, and they want to push it to November to basically make it a perfect game when it comes out. I applaud their transparency, and I applaud their proactivity, being proactive in trying to make sure that the finished product that gets out is completely finished. Unlike a lot of other game companies, EA, Bethesda, etc. So I have zero problem with them, and their track record, CD Projekt Red's track record, has been impeccable. So I trust them. They're one of the few game companies I do actually trust now. So I don't know. How do you guys feel about it? Are you completely bummed about the announcement, or are you in the same camp with me that it's like, hey, take as much time as you need so that when it comes out, there's no bugs, there's no there's no continuity issues, whatever. That's where I fall. So by the way, when we do these Beer 30 things, feel free to put down below if you guys are sharing a beer at the same time. If you're enjoying one while I'm doing this video, or when you're watching it, I should say. Feel free to put it down there so I can see what it is that you're enjoying. So, because I'm a beer connoisseur, I love the stuff, and I like all different styles and types, and so I like to see what other people are enjoying. So, because there may be something out there that I haven't heard of. I'm sure there are, but it'd be nice to hear that. So, the last thing, I guess let's talk about just real quick, The Last of Us Part 2. I played some of The Last of Us Part 1. The only reason that I haven't finished it is because it's on console, and it's third person, and you have to use game control, obviously, because it's on console. And I've been playing with mouse and keyboard for so long that it is tough for me to get the mechanics down right. I can, most of it I can, navigate through no problem or whatever. But when it comes to combat, I'm a little gimped trying to get used to the controller and so forth. And I could do it. I just don't know if I have the patience to work through it and to get used to a controller, a third-person action controller. I don't know. So, but from a story standpoint and the presentation of the game is fantastic. What I did play of The Last of Us, the first one, was fantastic. I understand all the controversy and everything that's going into the second one. I not knowing all of the lore of the first one as I should, because I didn't finish it. It seems like the developers kind of shit-canned the original narrative, or where the direction in which it seemed like it was going, and they wanted to just, do a 180 completely. That's what, now, again, I could be wrong on this, but that's the impression I'm getting. And it pissed a lot of people off. And there was some wokeness, I guess, involved, which is fine. I have no problem, again, with the diversity thing, as I've already stated, unless it's specifically because they are pandering and they are doing it just for the sake of being woke, So that I think is a mistake. But they say that the saying, go woke, get broke, or something like that. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of opinions on it, but it's been kind of a firestorm of controversy. So let me know your thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2, because I have a friend who it's her favorite game of all time, and I probably will talk to her tonight about it. She's actually in our D&D group. I'm interested to get her feedback on it, because her of all people would have an actual real take on it. So anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for this Beer 30. I probably will lose some people over my comments, but I gotta be real. I gotta tell you what I really think, and that's just the way it is. So cheers, and we'll catch you on the flip side, guys.